Hey guys, it's Ashlyn. Today I am making Doug out of polymer clay. It's a type of clay that stays soft until you bake it. So first, I make a sphere shape for his head and then roll out this soft cylinder shape for his neck. I take a look at how it would fit and it looks good, so I cut out part of the neck so the head can fit into it. Once that's done, I stick it together. I take out one of my sculpting tools to blend it together and it didn't really work well. So I just started using my fingers to blend the head and the neck together. It's a lot easier using my fingers because the warmth from my fingers melts it together nicely. I roll out a soft triangle shape for the back of Doug's head. I try it and see if it looks good, and it's a bit too small, so I made another one just a tiny bit bigger. This one looks a lot better. I start molding it down with my fingers again. I added a little bit of clay in between where there's spaces so I can fill the gap and mold it smoothly. It takes some time, but it starts to look really good in a little bit. Doug is such a funny brawler. His whole design is really funny looking, but the fact that he can revive himself and his teammates with just a hot dog is pretty crazy. Now I'm molding out the shape of Doug's hat. It's a pretty interesting looking hat. It's almost like a visor, but not really. It completely covers his eyes. Actually, some people think these are his eyes and other people think that those are his nostrils for his nose. I can see both being true. What do you guys think? After shaping it, I think it looks really good. The next thing I want to make is this red belt for his hat. I roll out some clay and cut the sides out to make it more straight. It doesn't have to be super straight and perfect because some of it will be covered up by a hot dog. Okay, there it is, and I'm starting at the very front of his hat because the seam where the ends meet will be covered up. I'm carefully wrapping that around his whole head and then cutting off any excess. You can see that little seam right there that I'm talking about. It'll be covered, so I'm not too worried about that. Now I have this circular kind of shape for his body. I rolled out a rectangle to cover the bottom for his shorts. I was kind of winging this part, honestly. I just wanted his shorts to stick out a bit from the rest of his body so it looks 3D. I wrap it all the way around and then start pushing down the bottom parts that are sticking out. I take my tiny little scissors and cut around it to help make the molding process a lot smoother. Anything extra, I just cut that off too. I make it smooth with the warmth of my fingers. And here is how it looks like so far. I add a bit more clay to make his waistband of his shorts stand out. Now it is time for his yellow jacket. I roll out some clay in a U shape and start lining it up with his body. It looks good, but to make sure, I put his head on top so I can see how it looks. It helps me to visualize whether I should move it up or down, but I think the placement is really good, so I keep it where it is. For the rest of his jacket, I roll out 2 more of the same shape and add that underneath. I sped it up here because it is kind of tedious lining it up. You can see me roll out the last shape right here and adding that on as well. I kind of made the last one a little too skinny, so I flattened it out a bit with my fingers so it looks as thick as the other two. Here's the body so far. It looks so cute. I see how it looks with the head again, and it looks great so far. I'm smoothing out the sides of the jacket so I can get it ready for the zipper part. The zipper kind of looks like little dinosaur teeth. I make these tiny little triangle pieces, 4 for each side. I cut off the ends with this tool so it's flat and ready to be attached to the jacket. You honestly don't need any tools for this at all. You can just use scissors or any thin flat surface to cut the clay or smoothen it. This is with the zipper on the jacket. I glued on the little triangle pieces with some liquid polymer clay. For the leg part of Doug's shorts, I rolled out these tiny cylinder shapes and I'm adding it to the bottom of the body with some more liquid clay. These little pieces here are Doug's legs that go under his shorts. I made 2 cylinders again and stuck it onto an oval shape. I cut off the top of his leg so it's easier to stick to his shorts. Again, I use liquid clay to make sure it stays secure. Okay, now I'm making the hot dog for his hat. I use this sharp tool, you can use like a toothpick or anything really, to kind of etch out the shape of the hot dog. It really doesn't have to be perfect because I use scissors to cut it out. I smoothen out the sides with my fingers to make it more like the actual shape of the hot dog on his hat. I put it on his hat and it's starting to come together very nicely. This is actually one of Doug's arms and hands. I'm carefully cutting out his fingers with some scissors. Then I use my fingers to smoothen it and shape it to how Doug's hands look here. This first hand is for him to hold the hot dog with. Here's the hot dog and it fits together very nicely. Then I stick that hand onto the side of his jacket with some glue. I do the other hand as well. Sadly, this one doesn't have a hot dog with it. I put the head on to see what it looks like again. It looks really good. I baked it in the oven for a few minutes until the clay is hard. I will stick it together at the end. Now that it's hard, it is time for paint. I mixed this pretty pinkish purple color. I'm not really sure what to call it exactly. It's the same color as my glove I'm wearing. I don't like getting paint on my hands, so I wear gloves, but of course you don't have to. I will get some paint on my hands later anyway, so you'll see. I actually do a few coats of this color because you can see there are still some spaces in between that aren't as opaque as I would like it. Then I make this light green color for his hat. I'm using acrylic paints, by the way. It's a very common type of paint you can get anywhere, even the dollar store. It works really nice on polymer clay. I'm doing yellow for his jacket. I think I had to do maybe 3 or 4 coats for this yellow because yellow always needs a lot of coats for it to completely cover the clay. I did some red paint for the belt on his hat. I'm trying to be really careful here too because I don't have any more purple in case I do get red on the purple. I'm doing some blue for his shorts. I think I just did 1 or 2 coats for this. Now I'm lining his hat with some white paint. Of course with white you need so many coats, but it's not too much. It's just the outsides of his hat. I put some of the white paint on the hot dog of his hat too before I painted the actual hot dog on it. I had to use a really skinny brush for this because the details for the hot dog are really tiny. I did the sausage first with the light brown color, then I made a tan color for the bread of the hot dog bun. I really took my time with this. It makes it a lot easier with a really small brush. If you're wondering where I get any of my supplies for this video, I will put some links in the description box where you can find some of the supplies that I use. The color for the bread is actually the same color I used for his tummy because I didn't want to mix more paint, but it still looks really good. I recorded the part where I drew his mouth and nose, but I lost the footage sadly. I looked everywhere for it. I don't know what happened to it. But I used a skinny brush again for the mouth and same with the nose or the eyes, whatever you guys think it is. I did a few coats of that and then I added the strings to his pants. I did this earlier but it fell off, so I glued it back with a glue gun. This part looks so satisfying because it all comes together. I used the glue gun to put them together. This is what my Doug looks like. So cute, but there is still one more step I want to do. I want to make sure that if I drop my figurine that he will still be okay. I also want it to be glossy, so I'm using UV resin for this. You have to be really careful with resin because it's really sticky and the fumes can be toxic if you sniff too much of it. So make sure you stay safe and use a mask and use it in a well-ventilated area. I use a paintbrush, but I have to throw this paintbrush away after using it because the resin will not come out of the brush at all, and I don't want it to touch my hands either. I do this part in small areas. For example, I cover the top part of his head with resin, then I put it under the UV lamp to cure it so it's hard and not sticky anymore. Then I move to the stomach, do the same, then the back, and so on. Once he is completely covered and hardened, he looks so beautiful. If you guys make your own, please tag me and show me on any of my socials. I will make another figurine really soon. See you guys later.